He covered the corpse's head with a trash bag and casually wiped the bloodstains off the floor before dragging the body into the bathroom. But soon, blood began to seep slowly from under the door. While eating, he suddenly noticed drops of blood falling from the ceiling. Looking up in horror, he saw the ceiling soaked in blood. At that moment, his girlfriend called out to him, snapping him out of his panic. It was all a hallucination. He had merely had a nosebleed due to a spike in blood pressure. To rid himself of this psychological disturbance, he waited until his girlfriend was sound asleep at night, then spread a tarpaulin on the floor and placed the body in the center. Using skills he'd learned from books, he began a meticulous process of wrapping the body, turning it into a mummy-like figure. Who would have thought that this man was Mathieu, a celebrated genius writer in France? Before becoming a writer, Mathieu was just a lowly moving worker. Despite his passion for writing, his mediocre skills led to repeated rejections. However, the death of a solitary old man changed Mathieu's fate forever. The old man, having no relatives, left his belongings to be handled by the moving company. While sorting through the room, Mathieu was drawn to an old soldier's photo. Beside it, he found a dusty manuscript detailing the man's real wartime experiences, interspersed with photos and sketches, which captivated him. Lacking natural writing talent, Mathieu, with a writer's intuition, keenly recognized the literary value of this manuscript. He brought it home and started reading it right away. He was so engrossed that he couldn't recover from the impact of the stories even after closing the diary. Such tales were beyond his ability to fabricate. After hesitating, he sat at his computer and meticulously converted the manuscript into a digital document. Inspired by the bloody battlefields and darkened sands, he titled the book Black Sand and audaciously put his own name on it. Soon, he received a call from a publishing house wanting to publish the book and meet with him. Excited yet anxious, as he was not the real author and knew nothing about war, Mathieu postponed the meeting with the publishers until the end of the month, giving him time to prepare for any questions. He invested a lot of effort. He detailed every location and battle from the manuscript, researched at libraries, and studied the mannerisms of famous writers online. After this preparation, he burned all the materials and photos, and thus, a shocking new writer was born. The publishing house threw a celebration party for him, inviting many literary celebrities. However, the highlight for Mathieu was meeting his idol, Alice, at the party. Gathering courage, he approached her just as she was praising Black Sand. Bolstered by her admiration, he cast aside his usual timidity and boldly invited her out. Their eyes met, and they quickly fell in love. 3 years swiftly passed, and Mathieu and Alice's relationship progressed to discussions of marriage. Alice took Mathieu to meet her parents. Her father, a military enthusiast with many antique firearms, praised Black Sand highly. Only then did Mathieu realize Alice came from a wealthy family. Feeling nervous in such an environment, Alice took him outside to relax. While enjoying a private moment in a storage room, they were interrupted by a phone call. Since the publication of Black Sand, Mathieu hadn't written anything new, despite receiving a substantial advance from the publisher. The publisher was losing patience and issued an ultimatum to Mathieu. If they didn't see a draft within a week, they would sue him and demand the advance back. Alice asked worriedly about the call, but Mathieu evaded the question, unwilling to shatter the image of the perfect man he had built for himself. However, he spent an entire afternoon at the computer without writing a single word. Mathieu's troubles worsened, especially when his father-in-law's godson, Stan, visited. Stan brought an antique book from 1887 as a birthday gift, making Mathieu's modest gift seem insignificant. He had his own gift, feeling out of place in the joyful family scene. One day, while attempting to write, Stan engaged Mathieu in conversation, outwardly praising Black Sand but subtly implying doubts about how such a young man, never having experienced war, could write such a detailed account. Mathieu was speechless and could only claim that he had conducted extensive research. Stan's knowing smile and pat on the shoulder left Mathieu feeling immensely pressured. In a bid to appease the publisher, Mathieu tried to submit some of his earlier works. Before handing them in, he changed the name on the manuscripts and purposefully let Alice find them, lying that the publisher wanted his feedback on them. Alice, not wanting to disturb Mathieu's work, took on the task of reading them. That night, she bluntly criticized the work as terrible, even worse than third-rate novels, deeply wounding Mathieu. Clearly, this work was not suitable for submission to the publisher. Soon, a call from the bank added to Mathieu's stress, informing him of severe credit card overdrafts. If he didn't repay soon, all his cards would be frozen. The repercussions of his lies were now fully unraveling. Mathieu felt on the brink of collapse. He drove to a secluded forest, banging his head against the car window until blood covered the glass, then stopped his frantic behavior. He destroyed his computer, smashed the car windows, and tore his clothes, pretending to have been robbed. This ruse not only strengthened his relationship with his girlfriend but also bought him more time from the publisher. However, Stan's attitude towards him became more playful. Days later, at a book signing, Mathieu encountered a mysterious man who bluntly accused Black Sand of plagiarism and claimed his father was the old soldier's war buddy. He demanded a substantial hush money, but Mathieu, deeply in debt and struggling with daily expenses, couldn't pay. Days passed without payment, and the mysterious man called Mathieu's father-in-law's house. Panicking, fearing his girlfriend would discover the truth, Mathieu considered stealing antique guns from her father's collection as payment. Late at night, he snuck into the living room, stole 2 antique guns, and broke a window to simulate a burglary. Though his girlfriend's family didn't suspect him, Stan noticed the odd choice of stolen items among many valuable antiques. He secretly checked Mathieu's unlocked suitcase and found the stolen guns. As Mathieu entered the room, a confrontation ensued, and in the heat of the moment, Mathieu shot Stan in the temple with one of the antiques. In a panic and hearing the family returning, Mathieu quickly wrapped Stan's head in a trash bag and hid the body in the bathroom. He rushed to Stan's room, packed his belongings to simulate a hasty departure, and sent a leaving message to his girlfriend from Stan's phone. The family didn't think much of it, as Stan had behaved similarly before. When the house was quiet, Mathieu took rope and tarpaulin from the storehouse and thoroughly wrapped the body. To avoid attention, he chose to throw the body out the window from the 2nd floor and slid down a drainpipe himself. Disposing of the body was a challenge. He dragged it to the sea and planned to sink it. He tied weights to the body, drove a speedboat to a secluded spot, and dropped the body into the deep sea. Still tense, he jumped into the sea as a Coast Guard patrol boat approached, swimming desperately away. When he reached shore at dawn, he avoided his father-in-law, who was out playing sports, and returned to bed shirtless, unaware his girlfriend was already awake. Her suspicions of an affair had grown due to Mathieu's mysterious behavior. Although he knew she was mistaken, he couldn't reveal the truth and claimed his neglect was due to writing stress. His girlfriend was moved by his sincerity and shared good news: she was pregnant. On the day of the transaction with the mysterious man, Mathieu handed over the stolen antique guns, finally resolving his troubles. Inspired by these tumultuous events, Mathieu wrote an original novel based on his experiences, using Black Sand's style. He titled it Deception. However, the day he completed it, Stan's body was discovered. The police found skin fragments not belonging to Stan on the body, likely the killer's, and began DNA matching with relatives. Mathieu felt his life had hit a dead end. At this critical moment, the mysterious man called again, greedily demanding more hush money. Mathieu, with no way out, considered crashing his car in desperation but couldn't muster the courage. However, the thrill of being on the edge of life and death sparked a risky plan. Before executing his plan, he gave his novel to his girlfriend, packed all his belongings in the car, and jammed a coin in the seatbelt buckle. The greedy man, blinded by his avarice, didn't notice the tampered seatbelt. When he realized something was wrong, Mathieu had already accelerated towards a rock wall. The man died instantly, while Mathieu survived as planned. He moved the body to the driver's seat, took the man's phone, and placed his own phone and watch on the body. Then, Mathieu doused the car with gasoline and set it ablaze, turning his acclaimed past to ashes. As he watched the fire rage, Mathieu realized that his identity as a genius writer had also vanished in the flames. Indeed, the news reported his death in the car crash, allowing him to start a new, anonymous life. 2 years later, he saw his novel Deception become a bestseller in a bookstore, with his photo displayed in the window. Excited to enter the store, he stopped when he saw his girlfriend hosting a book club meeting, their 1-year-old child by her side. A glimmer of emotion crossed his eyes, but it quickly faded. He chose to step back, distancing himself from his once perfect self. He wandered the streets in silence, reflecting on his past. The lies, deceptions, and the errors made to cover up a single mistake had led to a lifetime of tragedy. He realized that no matter how dazzling success might be, if built on lies, it will ultimately be hollow and painful. Mathieu's story ends here, but the lessons it leaves are profound and enduring. On the path to achieving dreams and success, we must adhere to principles of honesty and morality, avoiding the disastrous road paved with lies and deceit.